begins with experience, and experiences from our youth shape our destiny. Good afternoon to one another present here. We have gathered here today for the inauguration of English Literary Association Melange 2022-23, organized by the Department of English of Christopher College of Management and Technology in association with the Internal Quality Assurance Center. The English Literary Association of Christopher College was established in the year 2015 to stimulate and motivate young enterprising minds to their innovative spirits. It functions with the motive of sharpening the literary, aesthetic, and communicative skills of the students. Prayer is the raising of one's mind and heart to God the Almighty, who speaks in the silence of the heart. I invite Jisa and Asha for the prayer. I also request everyone to rise up for the prayer.
God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day. He will make a way. He will make a way.
Time to welcome the guests of honor and all the other esteemed dignitaries who are present here this afternoon. I invite Devi Nandana to deliver the welcome speech.
Good afternoon, everyone. I deem it a great privilege and honor to extend a hearty welcome to all of you present here. As we all know, we have gathered here for the inauguration of the English Literary Association, Melange 2022-2023. First of all, it's my happy task to welcome our resource person for the day, Mr. P.J. Thomas, Associate Professor and Head, Department of English, St. Berkman's College. Mr. P.J. Thomas is a man of great wisdom and knowledge who has a unique personality and a style of his own. He is a man of distinguished vision and a multifaceted genius whose areas of expertise include cultural and literary theory. With utmost respect and happiness, I welcome you, sir, to enrich us with your enlightening thoughts. Next, I welcome Reverend Father Joshi Chirampuri CMI, the principal of Christopher College of Management and Technology. Father has been an individual of indomitable personality and a great source of motivation. Undoubtedly, he is the epitome of perfection and excellence, an illustrator, a philanthropist, and a charismatic priest who has rendered selfless services to the society. On behalf of the Department of English, I extend a warm welcome to you, Father. Next, Mr. Sidhu Joseph Cheneville, the head of the English department, needs no formal introduction. His fresh thoughts, optimistic approach, and gentle behavior have inspired many. The English department of Christopher College has reached enviable heights under his inspiring stewardship. I extend a hearty welcome to you, dear sir. I also take this moment to welcome the staff coordinator of the seminar, Ms. Vinita Rose Benny, and all the faculty members of the department for their constant support and guidance. Last but not the least, I welcome all the students of the English department to join the Melange 2022-2023. Welcoming all of you once again. Thank you.
Reverend Father Joshi Chirampuri CMI, principal of Christopher College of Management and Technology, is a great personality who builds character, inspires dreams, encourages creativity, builds confidence, and instills a love of learning in young minds. I cordially invite our respected principal to deliver the presidential address.
Most respected guest of the day, P.J. Thomas sir, head of the Department of English, SB College, Chennai. Respected Sidhu sir, head of the Department of English, Christopher College, colleagues, and my dear friends. Good afternoon to all of you. Since majority of the students are wearing the mask, I'm not able to identify whether you are smiling or not. Anyway, I think you attend this program with much enthusiasm and vigor. As mentioned earlier, ever since its inception, English Department of Christian George College, though very small department in number of students wise, but from the beginning itself, under the able leadership of Sijosa, Department of English provides ample opportunities to the student community to grow in a very mature way. Before the pandemic COVID-19, I still remember the excellent execution of the inter-collegiate competitions, lectures organized by the students of Department of English and many other programs for the benefits of the student community. Even the result announced last month of the MG University. So the number of among 25 students, more than 6 students acquired overall A plus. That is more than 85%, and every student passed in first attempt. That is a remarkable achievement of the department. So providing good academic atmosphere along with training in growing in all-round development of the individual. So I hope and firmly believe that the Literary Association or the Department Association, Melange, will provide the ample platform for the student community to build up your positive outlook to the life. Whatever the opportunities provided by the college, make utilize one way or other that will enrich your horizon of experience. The mutual interaction between the teachers and the students will initiate the innate talents imbibed on you by the Almighty God. Along with the inauguration of the Department Association, today we are going to listen to the experts' talks from the PJ Thomas sir. So such kind of discourse will widen your outlook, especially in the field of literature. Literature always dealt with life. Maybe something that we are happening in the past or in the present, we are learning, but the relevance and significance of literature is not to come to an end. So the scope for the people who are learning literature in right sense is wide and immense. So it is my humble request to the student community to love the subject and try your all efforts to learn as much as possible. So wishing you all the best. I congratulate all the office bearers of the association and all the faculty members to arrange such a beautiful, spectacular program planned 2022-23. And wishing you all the best. I pray to Almighty God to bless you abundantly. With these words, I remain. Thank you.
For sharing those thoughtful words. Welcoming our dearest Vice Principal to the seminar. Mr. Sijo Joseph Tenaden, the head of the English Department, is a person of distinct vision. He plants the seeds of knowledge among students, sprinkles them with love, and patiently nurtures their growth to produce the dreams of tomorrow. I invite Sijo sir, a respected HOD, for the felicitation.
Students and teachers were here, so that I will have to mention all their names. Nobody should be missed. Good afternoon to all of you. Reverend Father Joshi Chirag, CMI, the Principal, Christiodi College of Management and Technology, Vice Principal, Varghese Agnesa, who is also the head of the Commerce Department over here. And also, today is the Chief Guest, PJ Thomas sir, the head of the Department of English, SP College. Also, he is an associate professor. And also all the colleagues, namely Nisha Miss, Rohini Miss, Vinita Miss, Veena Miss, Saji Miss, Benji Miss, and Sujasa is also here. And like Divya Miss is here, Jitu Miss is here, Jeremy Miss also is here. And also definitely all my brothers and sisters and brothers of the English department. You know, the task given to me or assigned to me is to give or to accord a felicitation. But other than that, a few words of gratitude I need to pray on this occasion. Reverend Father Joshi Chirag is here. I think he always worked hand in hand and shoulder to shoulder with me all along. And no initiative of the department was voted out by him at any point. Whatever initiatives I put in front of him, those initiatives were given the green signal and they were taken to their eventual conclusion. And of course, I am eternally indebted to, especially his large-hearted, magnanimous attitude towards all the endeavors of the English department, one way or the other. Because I still remember about the frantic effort he made in order to make that Litras 2019 a great success. He believed in me because after all, you know, when I say Litras 2019, I think many of the people over here, they don't understand the scale, the propagation, and the reach of the program. Almost 1,000 participants turning up for a literary event that can be termed as a miraculous thing. And we accomplished that here in the English department with the minuscule manpower. And that can be termed as one of the best achievements of the department. I am not trying to go about the achievements of my department at any rate over here. But I will have to state that clearly because that would be an inspiration to all of you. Because the students who are sitting over here, you need to understand at that time only 20 students at the senior level. They were running from pillar to post to make that particular program a grand success. And now we have at the senior level 41 students. And I need to tell you, you will have to make it a double the number if I take up the mantle of conductor, especially this Litras. Now every time when we come across this newsletter in the college, or when we come out with that newsletter, at the top we have that Litras 29. That can be termed as one of the unmatched or as one of the unparalleled and unprecedented achievement in the history of this particular department. And all because of the teachers who had helped me to execute the task exceptionally well, and also because of the student community who stood alongside me in thick and thin. And dear Father, thank you so much for your help and assistance all along. And also about what he said in his a few words. Now he came here when I was there at the commerce level. All along we maintained a very cordial, very friendly relationship. And even now, in the morning, my morning ritual is that when I come to the institution, I do the punching and then I go to his room. If the principal is there, he's not there, I will go to his room because I understand the presence of all these people for, I think, running a college. That is very important. And sometimes, oftentimes, I think he acts like a very cool, calm, and level-headed individual. It gives us an immense inspiration when we see individuals such as Varghese, I think, manage the helm of affairs over here. And I wanted to be truthful about Peter Thomas. May not mistake about that. Because nowadays I don't praise people too much unless until I am very convinced about the merit of the education. And whatever I see, whatever I have known only about which only I will talk about. The other thing I will never talk because that's all about hypocritical behavior, pretentious behavior in which you wear a mask. Of course, if you wear a mask, one day your mask will slip and you will start exposed. I need to tell you, in different setting I saw, but he did not see. But I think in different setting, when he articulated views in a very straightforward, frank, and open fashion. And sometimes he always articulated his views, I think, from all perspectives and angles. And that is the quality of the individual. Again, when we had a lecture, when we had a lecture in a SP college, that means it was the very section or this particular talk was given by none other than Noam Chomsky, the famous linguist, and a person who always holds an anti-American view, someone who held clear-cut and very discernible views on many outstanding issues in the world. And I must tell you, at that time I saw him dealing with the issue in a very upturned, adequate manner. Because I also registered for the NDR. When the designated time came in, I must tell you, it is the biggest achievement is such a linguist was brought into a platform of SP English department of SP College. And at that time, all these participants, almost 1,000 registered people, they were trying to come in. But not 1,000, almost 5,600 people got registered. And they were all coming in, thick and fast, en masse. And because of that, Noam Chomsky, in the famous linguist, could not get in. Because 1,000 participants only could be accommodated in 2 meetings at a time. And there were comments, I was reading the comments in YouTube as well as I did not try to get in because I knew what was at stake. So I did not get in. I was looking at all the comments coming one after another. All these comments they were making damning comments about the department and it is a fake thing, it is so embarrassing. And they were started calling names. At that time also, he never lost his cool. He remained as good as a guru. Definitely he did. And that also speaks volumes about the quality and the training of the individual concerned. And if you have such a head, if such an individual man is the head of the department, that the department will grow leaps and bounds. And that is why I am very grateful that he has turned up and he is so considerate enough to turn up here to, especially to deal with this election. We are all looking forward to your especially election. I think we believe that it will be an enlightening, ennobling sort of section for all of us. And all the teachers who have organized this particular section over here, I think Vidyamas needs a special congratulations for having acted as the coordinator of this particular inauguration seminar, and also all the other department teachers. Thank you very much for being out here. It's a unique sight when I see other department teachers coming up here to attend an English department seminar, and also all my brothers and sisters for your presence over here. Thank you very much.
Love follows inspirational words. Poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions. It takes its origin from emotions recollected in tranquility. I invite Aishwarya Bezu to recite a poem.
Good afternoon, everybody. I will be reciting The Spider and the Fly by Mary Howitt. Spider and the Fly. Will you walk into my parlor? Said the spider to the fly. It's the prettiest little parlor that ever you did spy. The way into my parlor is up a winding stair, and I've got many curious things to show you when you're there. Oh no, said the little fly, to ask me is in vain, for who goes up your winding stair can ne'er come down again. I'm sure you must be weary, dear, with soaring up so high. Will you like to rest upon my little bed? Said the spider to the fly. There are pretty curtains drawn around, the sheets are fine and thin, and if you'd like to rest a while, I'll snugly tuck you in. Oh no, said the little fly, for I've often heard it said, they never wake again who sleeps upon your bed. Said the cunning spider to the fly, dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I've always felt for you? I have within my pantry good store of all that's nice. I'm sure you're very welcome. Will you please take a slice? Oh no, said the little fly. Kind sir, that cannot be. I've heard what's in your pantry, and I do not wish to see. Sweet creature, said the spider, you're witty and you're wise. How handsome are your gauzy wings, how brilliant are your eyes. I've a little looking glass upon my parlor shelf. If you step in one moment, dear, you shall behold yourself. I thank you, gentle sir, she said, for what you're pleased to say, and bidding you good morning now, I'll call another day.
Thank you, Aishwarya, for reciting a beautiful poem. When darkness comes, let us not condemn the dark, but light a lamp to illuminate. I invite all the dignitaries to come forward and inaugurate the English Literary Association 2022-23 by lighting the lamp. In literature and music, Modernism was a break from the past and a concurrent search for a new forms of expression. Modernism fostered a period of experimentation in the arts from the late 19th to the mid-20th century, particularly in the years following World War I. It is the protein of our cultural imagination. Today, our honorable guest, Mr. P.J. Thomas, is going to deliver a talk on some reflections on modernism. Mr. P.J. Thomas has been working as an associate professor in the Department of English, St. Bergman's College, Changanashiri since 1994 and is currently serving as the head of the department. He has completed his graduation and post-graduation from St. Bergman's College, Changanashiri. He has published many papers in various national and international journals. He has served in many professional bodies and has also coordinated various international academic conferences and symposia and was responsible for inviting and facilitating interactive sessions with scholars such as Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, Laura Mulvey, Homi Baba, Norm Thompson. With immense pleasure, I invite our guest of honor, Mr. P.J. Thomas, to deliver the lecture.
All of you. So with everyone's permission, also with the special permission of the principal, vice principal and the HOD, let me inaugurate the activities of your association. And I thank the principal, the HOD, coordinator, for giving me this opportunity. So I really appreciate it. I hope that the activities become very successful, that you all benefit out of this association activity. So God bless you all. Now, in fact, I got recommended by Vinita, my own student. So these days we need some recommendation, to get something done. So, then Renju is there, my old student, and my wife's classmate. And then so Sijo is there. I understand that he is a very fiery and efficient speaker. And of course, he must be a good head as well, I suppose. And so you must be blessed to have such a dynamic and energetic person at the helm. He was referring to the increase in the intake of students. So I'm sure that it could be because of his stable leadership. Then also, I don't know all the teachers personally. I think Veena and Rokini seems your names, and salute all the teachers who are teaching the students. It's a wonderful, wonderful calling, vocation. The reason that I'm here is not that I'm an expert or a scholar, but the mere fact that I like students and I like to interact with them and share with them some of my experiences, some of the things that I read, and it may be useful to you or it may not be useful. So I'm not going to give you a very erudite, kind of lecture, because there are so many scholars all over the world, and I'm nowhere there. Anyway, I want to thank again for the kind words spoken about me by your HOD and welcome speaker and introducer and scholar. I'm very, very thankful, because the best thing we can give to the others is good words. Let us be hospitable in our words, that let us talk good about others. That's the best thing, and that will make everybody happy. Who doesn't want to hear good words, right? So we all like to be praised, we like to like to hear good words. So that way I am very happy and I am very thankful to your generous mind. So I want to make a very, very brief and very clear as far as possible lecture. We call it a lecture or a class. And the topic is already given, some observations on modernism. So these are going to be mere observations, and I hope that these observations would help you to help you understand and also love the field that you are in. Love little better, love literature a little better. The reason I selected this topic, when Vinita asked me for a topic, I immediately thought I would speak about modernism, because in a way modernism roughly nearing its 100th year. So the height of modernism, the climax of modernism was in 1922. So though it started probably in the second part of the 19th century, it reached its climax with the publication of a certain books like poems or books or novels, which many of you are familiar. Say The Wasteland in 1922, James Joyce's Ulysses in 1922, Virginia Woolf's novels again in the 1920s. So you may be familiar with all of them. So I selected this topic because we are in the 100th year of this, and therefore we need to, think about it, talk about it, and try to understand it. So initially, I would say that we are all students of literature, I suppose, first year, second year, and third year, right? So at some point of your study of literature, you have been introduced to the word modernism or modern. That word is not a kind of foreign for us, but it's a word that we are all familiar with. Modern is a word that we are all familiar with. In fact, you must have discussed, studied some modern works also, like a novel or a poem. So, whatever I am going to say, in fact, would help you to take a position or frame a perspective about modernism. Because usually, people are afraid of modernism. In MA class and in BA class, when people hear the word modern, they think it's very tough, it's difficult, and you can't get marks and so on. Especially when in MA class, when you are going to study T.S. Eliot or some modern poet, you feel that it is tough, difficult. That's already a prejudice or a kind of fear or a stereotype we create in our minds. So the intention of my talk, perhaps the objective of it, is to clear that stereotype. Now, modernism is not a bad idea, it is not a very difficult thing, provided you understand it in the proper way. Modernism is something that we all face in our day-to-day life. It is there in our life, it is there in our household, it is there in our, wherever we are. That is what modernism is. I'll very briefly tell you how it is. As students of literature, you know that roughly, literature begins with classicism, and then some of the key words that you should keep in mind are classicism, right? The time of tragedies and comedies, classical plays and comical plays, and then we have Renaissance, another major period, and then we have what we call the Elizabethan period, which is a continuation of that same period, and then we have very famous neoclassical period, then we have Romantic period, then we have Victorian, and then after Victorian, people start talking about modern period. So for students of literature, it may be interesting to know that the last Victorian and the first modern was Thomas Hardy. So when you read Thomas Hardy's novels and his poems, you will start experiencing some modernity, some element of modernism. So in other words, modernism is already there. It started in the later part of the 19th century, but it reached its climax in the 20th century. Now, I will tell you what is actually modernism. As I said, it's not, in fact, in the introductory remarks, the students referred to the avant-gardism, the experimental nature of poetry. But what that is true, the style is very experimental, it is very new. They use the French word avant-garde. In a way, it's true that, it's actually went ahead of their time. The style was ahead of their time, that is true. But I wouldn't think that that is the way to look at modernism. So that is only part of modernism. In other words, style becomes very difficult. And probably that is the reason why people dislike modernism. Because modernism is associated with this style, complex style, and so on. But I would say that it is more than mere style. Style is important, but it is secondary. But it is actually a worldview. In German, we have a term called Weltanschauung or Weltanschauung. You are all familiar with the word Weltanschauung. So in other words, it's a way of looking at the world. It's a way of understanding your life, your own life. So that is modernism. Now, there is another way of looking at the world, which you can call traditional way of looking at the world. Traditional way of looking at it. Or you can use a technical term like a positivist way of looking at the world. That existed right from classical times. You know, world was taken to be an ordered cosmos. That is what we call it. Now everything is certain. Everything is predictable. Everything is neat. Everything is clear, tidy. Everything is normal. So that worldview is there, and even now, many hold that worldview. That world is a neatly defined, neatly arranged, neatly ordered world. And there are many people who look at their own lives as neatly ordered and so on, right? So that worldview is still here. For example, some of the authors, if you are interested in some of the great thinkers, for example, there's a sociologist, sometimes he is the father of sociology, called Augustus Comte. You can look up his name and details later. So this worldview is often associated with him, Augustus Comte, because he believed in science and science of data, which is actually a derived idea from science. So that if you observe 10 cases, you can predict the 11th case. Now that is what we understand by Comte. And based on that, Comte developed this idea of society. That society is something that we can completely control. Another writer would be Hippolyte Taine. He is also a French philosopher who believed that history in fact decides everything. Hippolyte Taine talked about how, say for example, literature is controlled by environment, the time. His famous dictum that man, moment, and the belief. So again, Hippolyte Taine also viewed life, literature, and the world as a neatly ordered system. And then we have another gentleman again called a philosopher called Herbert Spencer. I'm just mentioning these names to look at. So he also believed in the same way of looking at it. Another very popular person that you are all familiar with and who is responsible for this neatly definable world is none other than our scientist Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton. Now, when Isaac Newton was invited to be the chief scientist in the Royal College of Scientists in London, he took over and he developed his theory of gravitation. And there also, he was saying that world is very, very definable. That this gravitation theory will explain everything. Now we are here sitting because it's all gravitation. So that gravitation theory also contributed a lot to a traditional view of life. I hope it is clear to you that world is a neatly defined, neatly ordered, neatly organized world. So based on that, we can also think about our life to be a very neatly ordered world. In other words, we can order our life. I think we are all under that impression that we can see everything in our life, understand everything in our life. Therefore, it is a world of rationalism. Okay? It's a world of intellectuality. We can use our intellect and then control our life. So this is a worldview. Now, what happened in modernism? The number of thinkers, number of authors, they started challenging this worldview. That this world is not something that is organized. But in other words, the world is not something that we see. Because you see that our sight is very limited. We only see with our limited human eye. For example, when we meet a human being, look at his face or her face, we only understand so much about that person and we make our judgments on that, right? So this was a case that when novelists wrote, for example, Charles Dickens or even Thomas Hardy. See, many of these novelists and poets, when they wrote about issues, what did they write about? They saw what it was and they wrote about it. And there was a kind of certainty about what they were saying. So life in England, for example, is like this. So, for example, if you want to understand life in England, you read Charles Dickens. If you read the characters of Charles Dickens, you will get everything about human life, human nature, and so on. So, actually, we realize that that is not true. Our physical eyes cannot see all reality. Our physical ears cannot hear all reality. So, this is being challenged by a few thinkers and writers. Many of you are familiar with. Say, for example, Charles Darwin. When Charles Darwin came with his Origin of Species, what did he say? He said things are changing. Now, what we see here in this century may not be there in the next century. That is what evolution is all about, right? So, Charles Darwin came with his Origin of Species. And therefore, what we see is not final. There is something that is yet to come. So, that is one writer who challenged this idea. And then you can think about quantum physics. You know, in science, I don't know if you had your science in your +2 and higher secondary. See, there was a time when we thought that neutron, proton, and electron, they were the ultimate particles. Okay? But then later scientists realized that these are not the ultimate particles, and these particles can be further divided. And those who know physics will know that area is called particle physics or quantum physics. So in quantum physics, they talk about what we call quarks, Q-U-A-R-C-K-S, quarks. And quarks are subatomic particles. So there are particles inside proton. So therefore, again, science is giving us the idea that what we see in this world is not absolute. We don't see everything. There is much more than what we see with our eyes and hear with your ears and so on. And then another influence, another person that you all know who changed this traditional view of the world is Freud, for example. Most of you are familiar with Freud, right? Now Freud again said it is not what we see and what we experience in our momentary experience is not the reality. So for example, he published his dreams, his book on dreams, the interpretation of dreams. And he talked about the various unseen areas of our mind. So that is what we call the unconscious and the subconscious and so on. So when these ideas of Freud came out, again we realized that world is not what we see. It is not an ordered, negotiable, cosmos, but there are complexities and there are invisible things in the reality which an author cannot see. Okay, and therefore another writer that you may be aware of in the same line is Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, who was also a contemporary of Freud and even a disciple. And he also came up with this idea that again what we see, what we experience, what we know is not the ultimate end. So he talked about this racial unconscious and so on. There is collective unconscious, not the individual unconscious, but there is a collective unconscious. Now he talked about the archetypes and so on. So that again changed the world view, all under the word Vertenschung, the Vertenschung of our life. And so I'm just saying that there are two sets of people before us. One set of people, starting with Augustus Comte, said life is certain, life can be rationally experienced, and what we see is reality. We have Augustus Comte, Herbert Spencer, Hippolytus Taine, and many others on this side. On the other side, we have Jung, Freud, then quantum physics, quantum theoreticians, and so on. So we have to. And now, what is actually happening here is that with the coming of the second group of writers, what happened is that the worldview changed, which means that what we see as an ordered world is not the reality, because there are unseen, complex issues in this world. And therefore, I would say that the key word for modernism would be complexity. Complexity. For example, look at every individual. Now, each individual is a complex phenomenon. What we see about that human being is not the real. There is so much inside the human being that we cannot understand, that we have no access to. So therefore, complexity is one key word of modernism. So in other words, we now realize that our lives are very complex. You may see a person sitting very coolly near you, but inside, there may be a lot of things going on in your friend. You may not know. Now sometimes to your surprise, you will ask, this is the person that did that particular thing, I never expected. Right? Yeah. So therefore, we cannot see anything. We cannot understand many things because life is very complex. Your mind is very complex. That is a key term. The first term I would like to say is that it's complexity. Second thing is, as I said in the beginning, in the traditional worldview, what is important is society. Because we live for the society. Now we live according to the society. For example, we go back to Leviathan and so on. I don't go there because it's so much to talk about. But anyway, now we are all like, as Marx says, we are all like nuts and bolts of a big system. So we are part of an organization, we are part of a system, and therefore we don't have much importance. So the importance is to society. And even today we hold that view, right? We have no role, we have no importance, but society matters and so on. That is what our major discourse is about, that society must thrive, so that society must be fine. We should not do anything to society, and therefore society is the main thing. So in modernism, there is a shift from society to the individual. Now you find that in poetry or in novel and in drama and so on. For example, in the novels of say Charles Dickens, we find society. The characters are part of a society and they are all character types. For example, there is an orphan boy, and that orphan boy would be a representative character. He doesn't have any uniqueness. In literary terms, you say that there is a flat character and the flat character and round character, right? So, in the traditional worldview, characters are flat because they don't change, they only grow, they only age, but you don't have this complexity and so on. So, they are called flat characters. So, in Charles Dickens, you find flat characters, meaning the author seems to know everything about the character, the dress, the face, the character, and body, everything as if the omniscient narrator knows everything and then he describes. And for readers also it is very easy, you get everything, the story is there, everything is there. But with the coming of this worldview of modernism, that the individual becomes very important, not society, but individual becomes very important. And how this individual is important is in individual's thoughts, individual's experiences, they are very important. Now another, only please use the frame I am trying to. So another very important organization that actually helped this shift from the society to the individual is Theosophical Society. You know that as Indians we are aware of Theosophical Society of animism. But Theosophical Society actually in 1868 was inaugurated in US. It was an American organization. So there actually started individualism, or what we call individualization. In other words, individuals' experiences matter. Because Theosophy, for example, talks about occultism. In other words, what I imagine, what I experience, what I see is important. Because in other words, what is happening in our mind is more important than what is happening in my body. In other words, what I am wearing is less important, but what I think is more important. Therefore, in modernism, we actually go from society to the individual. The individual is becoming very important. And that is why I said Freud is looking at the individual. Okay? Because he is talking about the dreams of the individual and the complexities involved in the individual and so on. Okay. Now, one more thing about to understand modernism is that in the traditional worldview, now we thought that things was ordered, organized, and it could be neatly divided. For example, as good and bad. For example, in traditional novels, it is very easy to say that there are good characters and bad characters. There are good characters and evil characters. And therefore, it was easily separable. So, good and bad was easily separable, and so on. So, therefore, the second emphasis of modernism is that things are not separable. See, in everyday life, we cannot separate things. For example, your teacher can be good one day, but can be bad another day, right? So you can't have a good teacher. All your experience would be good about a teacher. Therefore, this good and bad, good and evil, or such what we call binaries, such called dualities, day and night, or black and white, and good and bad. Those things in the beginning were very clear. Writers were supposed to create good characters as good characters, bad characters as bad characters. So we call these bad characters as villainous characters, right? So we have, it's very clear that this fellow is villainous, this fellow is very virtuous. Easily, we divide this virtuous character as well. But with modernism, we realize that these characters cannot be separated like that, because in the same character, we will have good and bad, evil and good. So, for example, look at a novel like Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. If you know the story, you will understand that his characters always are good and bad at the same time. Okay? For example, Raskolnikov is a good person. He is a good person. He is a virtuous person. He is a revolutionary. He wants to do good things, but he ended up being a murderer. He murders two people. The woman he loves, what is her name? Sonia. Sonia is a good character. She wants to help her parents, but she ends up in prostitution. So you can find that a good character can also be a bad character. That happens in Dostoevsky. And therefore, when you hear the word modernism, please don't be scared about modernism. So modernism is telling you that your life is complex. There is no easy formula to understand or to explain your life. Even you cannot explain your life. For example, today when you woke up, you have this kind of experience, etc. But when tomorrow you wake up, the same individual, same human person, but your experiences can be different. Okay? And therefore, the third point about modernism is that multiple things can coexist. Opposite things can coexist in a person's life. See, for example, I will give you even your own personal life. You may be good about something. You want to be good. You want to be good to somebody. You are trying to be good, but behind your back, you want to be evil, right? Apparently, you want to smile at somebody. Apparently, you want to help somebody, but the back of mind will say that no, I don't want to help this fellow. This fellow is a evil fellow. Therefore, I am doing it just for the sake of it, because your mind starts working in a different direction. You understand that idea? You do something, but your mind is going in a different direction. So probably that's what Shakespeare said. One can smile and be villain. You can smile and smile, but inside your mind you may be something. So therefore, things can coexist which are opposite. Things can coexist which are irreconcilable. Okay, so that is the third major point of modernism. So when you come across a modern novel or a poem or a modern painting, you will find this, that multiplicities coexist, and therefore it is not a factual representation of life. Okay, you understand what I am saying? Therefore, in the traditional worldview, there is a factual representation of life, a factual representation of a character. You can say that this is a unidimensional representation. We call factual representation. But in the complex modern world, it is not a factual representation, but it's a complex representation. Therefore, there is a wonderful saying that Virginia Woolf, one of the practitioner of modernism, said, life is not a series of jig lamps arranged in a metrical order. but it's a luminous halo. Now, life is a halo which you don't understand, it is complex. And therefore, as I said, even in an individual, even in society, everywhere, complex things can coexist. Does that make sense to you? Therefore, what I want to say to you is that modernism is something that we all live in our everyday life. It's not something that is foreign to us. Because we don't do things that we want to in our life. Okay? Therefore, there is no complete control of our lives. We cannot control our lives. There is so much in our mind that we cannot control. Sometimes we get depressed for no reason. Sometimes we get angry for no reason. Sometimes we do things without any causal relation at all. People commit suicide, for example. Why in some modern novels people commit suicide? For no reason, there is no reason. So we have existentialism, etc. But I don't want to complicate all that, but I just want to say that in modernism, I said only three things. One is complexity or complexity. Things are very complex that we experience in your own everyday life. Your family, for example. Your father, mother, and then everything is there, you think it's easy, but it's not easy. It's a very complex system. There are so many non-negotiables in your family system. You work hard, you pray and do much, but still you say that I am not in control. Family, for example, is a complex system. You cannot explain everything that happens in the system. And therefore, complexity in your personal life, in your individual life, there are so many things which happen. We have no idea why it happens. Why this happens to me, I don't know. Therefore, that is complexity. So that is the first point I want to say, that modernist writers talk about this complexity. And therefore, they will use, therefore somebody was referring to the stylistic aspects, because they are using stream of consciousness, those things. Stream of consciousness, free association, soliloquies, asides, all those things which are coming from the mind. So that is the first thing, complex thing. Second thing I said is that there's a move from society as the important thing to individual as the important thing. Individual becomes very important. Therefore, individuals' thoughts, feelings become very important. You know that Ulysses, a novel which was published in 1922, what is it? What is it? It is around 600, 700 pages. It's the thoughts of a character in 24 hours time. The character's thoughts in just 24 hours time. No story, nothing. We are all talking about now Ulysses. Ulysses again completed 100 years. Therefore, again, as I said, there is not society which is important, but individual that is important. Now, what is the third thing I said? Anyone? What is the third thing I said? There is a coexistence of irreconcilable opposite things. Is that clear to you? So, because it seems to be that some of you are kind of disturbed. So, maybe that this is not something that you want or like. But anyway, I want to say that modernism is something that we live in your day-to-day life. That is the point I want to say, that this is there in your family, this is in your life, that is there in your friend's life, this is the classroom, the world around, everything. Things are not neatly organized. The so-called organization is a very, a kind of a very illusory one. It's simply a facade, You think that the world is a neatly organized world. It is not. This world is not a neatly organized world. We are all sitting here, maybe next moment, there can be an earthquake. There's no reason why it's going to happen. We can attribute, reasons because of our unforeseen, etc., etc. Because nature is also not neatly organized. Nature can have disasters for no reason. Partly we can say it is because of our own exploitation, etc., but that is not explaining everything. Therefore, the whole cosmos system, I call cosmos, again is not neatly organized and we cannot solve everything. And therefore, in a way, I will conclude very quickly that therefore science, in modernism, it is also a deficit of science, a bankruptcy of science. In other words, science cannot explain everything. That is what modern writers, modern thinkers, even modern scientists talk about that. Now that is what quantum physicists are talking about. What you have found, what you have invented, what you have explained is not the ultimate. There is much more. There is much more to be seen and to be experienced and so on. You know that recently we have the telescope giving you the Milky Way and so on. And therefore we don't know. Where are we sitting in this corner and therefore. And the last point I made is that irreconcilable things come together in our life. I said you may be evil and good at the same time. You may be intelligent, but at the same time you can make a mistake. You can be sometimes foolish, right? You may be very practical. Sometimes you can do very absolutely foolish things. You can be very virtuous, but next moment you can be a murderer. Or you can steal, or you can kill somebody, or you can do something. From where it is coming, we don't know. Therefore, individual is very complex. So, this idea that the world is complex, individual is complex, society is complex is discussed by modernism. Is that clear to you? That is the world conception, that is the worldview that modernism is putting forward. I'll give you a very simple example. For example, you all see, we have American modernism, British modernism, Indian modernism. Modernism is a huge global phenomenon. So we cannot talk about all that here, but I am just giving you a very simple example which you all studied in your high school, plus 2 and so on. Look at a poem like Stopping by the Woods. How many of you have read the poem? Please show me your hands. At least some of you can wake up from your sleep. How many of you read the poem Stopping by the Woods? Some of you. Now what do you think about the poem? Well, you can say it is a modern poem. Who did it? Whose poem is this? Robert Frost. Robert Frost wrote that poem. Now remember that in that poem he brings together two things. What does he bring together? Two irreconcilable things. What is irreconcilable thing? One is the beauty, of course. Whose woods these are, I think I know, etc., etc., and I want to enjoy. Right? I want to enjoy the snow falling. Beautiful one. That is a position of a life, that life is very beautiful. But immediately he is bringing another view that this is going to be short-lived. In other words, the subtext of the poem is what? Death. I have my eyes to go before I sleep, etc., etc. And people talk about sleep is death, etc. So see that life is beautiful. He is saying, the next moment he is saying that this life is going to be short-lived. So this is what life is all about. So now, for example, when you read the Wasteland, none of you must, I'm sure you are not familiar with Wasteland. For example, there is a sex scene going on. Somebody is having sex. Lady types, they are having sex. One of the most beautiful things in the world. Right? I don't know about you. You have to believe it for the time being. It's a wonderful experience. But those people who have that wonderful experience, they think we are in the rat alley where dead men lost their bonds. Immediately they are reminded of death. You understand that idea? Because when you are doing sex, you are thinking of death. But in traditional world, we will not address this. We know sex is sex, death is death. We don't bring together. But Vaishnav brings together death and sex at the same time. In the divan, you are doing it, but in the divan, I think of death also. Now, for example, you have so many poems. Look at another poem of Emily Dickinson. Dickinson is also a modern poet. It's interesting. This part is interesting. Theory part may be tough. Many of you must have read this in your high school and so on, called Because I Could Not Stop for Death, or The Chariot. How many of you read the poem? Yeah. What is happening in that poem? She is also a modern poet. Not fully a developed modern poet. There is a modern poet. So what is she happening? Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held, but just mortality and so on. So what is he bringing together? What is she bringing together? One is mortality, death. At the same time, she is bringing immortality. So death and immortality, or mortality and immortality can be brought together. Is that clear to you? Yes, that's the point. Now, if you take any poem of Frost, you have this modernity. He is bringing two things together. For example, look at another poem that you all studied would be the Road Not Taken. Okay? There again the irreconcilable thing. I took the road. That's my determination, my decision. But then the subtext is that I must have gone wrong. See, the most informed decision in your life may not be very informed. Maybe later you regret. Well, we all regret any of our decision. This is part of modernism. Now we take a decision with all our knowledge and scientific data, everything. You choose a career, you go to a school, you marry someone, with so much of background information, etc. But then after some time you realize, my choice was not good. My decision was wrong. So this is modernism. So in other words, every day, how futuristic can you be? How can you control your life? Now you are sitting all here as BA English students. You think that you are all happy and I took my decision and I love literature and so on. But will you be able to say the same thing after 5 years? As Frost is asking, years after I healed a sigh of relief and that made all the difference. What the difference will be? We don't know. Therefore, if you take any poem, which we call modern poem, you will find that these irreconcilable things are brought together. Okay? So when you look at, so that's a world view. That's a fair understanding of life. Because our life is like that. We cannot be certain about anything. We cannot be good all the time. We cannot be patient all the time. Now because Sijo was saying I was very cool, but I was cool at that time. Maybe I was crying also, but I cannot be cool all the time. You may come across me as a very hot-tempered, angry and evil person. Another occasion, who knows? So this is how individual changes happen, and this is captured by modernism. Whether it is Eliot, whether it is Virginia Woolf, whether it is Ulysses, whether it is any modern writer, what is he doing? He is bringing together. I'll give you one more interesting example. I'm sure, I don't know if you read the poem, maybe you can read it when you, by the way, some of you actually apply for MA and some of you end up in SB. Your seniors are there in SB, one or two we get every year. But I don't know, somebody applied this year. Well, I encourage you to apply and go to SB. So study MA there. But anyway, there's a poem titled Musée de Beauvoir, the Museum of Fine Arts, which is also a modern poem. Okay, Auden's famous poem, the Museum of Fine Arts. You see that which is a French title, Musée de Beauvoir, the Museum of Fine Arts. So it's actually about a painting. It's called The Fall of Icarus. Now Icarus is falling. What is that? It's suffering. Someone is suffering. And then on the other side, somebody is enjoying. Somebody is enjoying. And he says, say the same poem, he says, on the one side we find a martyrdom. Somebody is being killed. Somebody is being murdered as a martyr. On the other side you will find a horse. A horse is enjoying. How? Rubbing its back against the tree. Actually this person who is killed was taken on this horse, on the back of this horse. So did you understand? The poem says that suffering and joy can exist side by side in your life, in the world, in life. For example, I come from my SB, I'm coming from SB now after witnessing one of our former librarians' funeral is going to take place, or his body is now kept in the college actually. You see that point because you see on the one side you see young people are enjoying, they are having classes, etc. and so on. But on the other side, you see somebody is lying dead. This is life. So your neighbor, for example, may have a very bad experience, but you may have a different experience. Same thing, coexist. Therefore, nothing in the world is separate. Nothing in the world is neat and clear. Everything coexists. Good and bad, ugly, suffering, happiness, and so on. Life is complex, isn't it? That is what life is all about. And therefore, my point is like modernism is not something that is away and distant from us, which is very difficult and complex. And so it is complex, but it's complex because it is your life and my life and our life. Hope you understand. And therefore, based on that complexity, some writers take two certain complex presentations. some avant-garde techniques, for example. Now, I'll end with the last thing. I will end with the last point because many of the modern poets make use of myth, for example, which is also an interesting, interesting aspect of modernism. They use mythology, for example. Is that clear? Because Eliot is using that because we haven't studied Eliot, by the way. W.B. Yeats is using that, or even Ulysses is using James Joyce, or some kind of mythology they are using. Why they are using mythology? Why they are using mythology? Because these writers, they lost their trust in science. Because science is, today we know data science, you say that data will control our life, etc. Because data and its control is not absolute. So writers there who lost their faith in science, now they go to mythology. I'll give you a very simple example. Again from Frost, there's a poem called Apple Picking, after apple picking. Anyone knows the poem? Has anyone read the poem? Yeah, after apple picking. Yeah, what is happening there? What is the mythology that he is using? An apple picker did his apple picking all his life. Now he is old, tired, he retired. And he is on his deathbed. He is about to leave, he is about to die. And then on the one hand, on the one side you have a very satisfied life. He was very honest, very hardworking, etc. Apple picking. I have gone apple picking in New York. By the way, you should go sometime. Apple picking is like you go up because they open up this apple orchard. You pay $100 or whatever, and then you go in and you spend the whole day there. You eat, do whatever you want. You play with apple, and certain apple orchards, not all, certain apple orchards are open. But apple picking is also a profession. People, people do this picking of what? Pick rubber. They tap rubber, like rubber tappers. We have rubber tappers. So in the US and so on, they have apple pickers. They are farmers actually who go around picking up. So in other words, it's about farmer's life. A farmer is like was faithful all his life, and then he is like old and he retired, and then he is like about to die, or maybe he is retired. Then what is the mythology? He is seeing what? He is seeing heaven. He is having a dream. And what is the dream? In the dream, what is there in his dream? Small apples and big apples. He is seeing big apples and small apples. So what does it mean? He is actually using a Christian mythology. What is the Christian mythology? That after death we will go to heaven. So he is bringing that Christian mythology to give an ordering to his life. And therefore, earlier in the conventional system, science ordered your life. Right? Science ordered your life. Science would explain everything about your life. You go to science, you go to a doctor. Now, for example, when you have a problem, you go to a doctor, right? And you think the doctor can fix. But very often, doctor makes it worse. Right? When the doctor doesn't know what is happening. But we have complete faith in the doctor. When you have some sickness, a small thing, you run. And then you take some medicine, etc., and then you come back with publicities and complications. Because you lost your complete faith in science. Because science cannot save you. Science is not your master. And therefore, what do you believe in? You believe in mythology. And what is mythology? Mythology is not scientific. Mythology is imaginative. Mythology is imaginative, right? Yeah, it is imaginative and creative. It's something that you create. So therefore, mythology is very important. In fact, what mythology tells you sometimes may be relevant to you, more relevant to you than what science tells you. Is that clear to you? Wasteland is all about that, but anyway, I have no time to discuss that. Anyway, so I conclude by saying that most of the modernists make use of mythology because they want to order their life not according to science, not according to data, not according to observable facts. Because facts don't lead us anywhere. Facts don't help us. then what we need is imagination, fantasy, dream. Sometimes what we dream in life is better than what we hear in science. Science is dead, science is mere facts. But dream, imagination. One more last person you should read later on in your life is Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche is someone who actually brought up modernism. Because Nietzsche said individual is very important. His very idea that, Nietzsche has a very interesting concept called will to power. In other words, each person can create his or her life. No society, no religion, no God, no science, but you can create your own life. Sometimes you think it is right? You create. You create your own life. That is the will to create yourself. You don't need any values. You don't need any principles. You don't need any debt, social acceptance, approval, and so on. But you create your own self by your own determination, by your own action, and so on. Therefore, ultimately, one of my interesting and most favorite quotes is by my American writer, who wrote that famous essay, Self-Reliance. I think I'll stop with that. Who wrote Self-Reliance? Emerson. Yeah, Emerson. You will read Emerson for your MA and so on if you get a chance to go for it. So he's the day I read Emerson, his famous essay, it's actually a speech he gave at Harvard, and there is a quote which I always keep in my mind, which is connecting with what I am saying about will to power. He says, nothing can bring you peace but yourself. You see, nothing can bring you peace but yourself. See, even if everybody is appreciating you, saying that you are good and you are virtuous, you are whatever, you may not be happy inside. Suppose you are happy inside and whatever others tell you is insignificant. Therefore, nothing can bring you peace but yourself. See, that is something we need to develop. And that is what modernism is trying to tell you. And then, there is a second part of it is, nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of principles. Nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of principles. What does that mean? See, even if the whole world is saying you that you are a good man, but if you don't follow some good things in your own life, personal life, which you are convinced about, then there is no point. For example, Professor Siju and everybody is telling that I am a good person, but if I am not convinced about my values, then what is good about it? There is no good about it. People can tell you, you can easily deceive people, you can easily deceive people, you can pretend to be good, etc., but ultimately, you have to be honest with yourself. If you believe in a principle, you believe in it irrespective of what others say. Okay, now I think I will conclude by saying that modernism, please, from now on, don't fear modernism. Don't run away from modernism. Start loving modernism. What is modernism? Modernism is our life and your life. Actually, it is our life. Because our life is complex. And therefore, that will make us more responsible. That will make us more ethical. See, rather than judging somebody, let us be what? Patient. Maybe the student is having an issue. Maybe the student is doing this way because of some reason which I don't know. So therefore, modernism will make us more patient, more responsible, more ethical. Okay, therefore that complexity, that individualization will help us become more responsible. Therefore, please read modernism, read modern writers, and enjoy. So with that, again, I wish all the best for your association and also all the best for your future literary pursuits. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sir. In Shakespeare's plays, we can't distinguish between good and evil in his tragic heroes. So can we say that Shakespeare is a modern writer who lived in a traditional world of view?
Good afternoon, sir. I have one more question. Sir, this William Blake is one of the famous authors from pre-Romantic period. So, in one of his poems, he has mentioned about the coexistence of good and evil. So, how does this refer to the past and modern? That's my question.
Good evening, sir. Myself, Andre Shivu, sir. Romantic period also give importance on individual and their feelings. So, my question to you is, how does it differ from modernism?
happy that some of you were able to understand what I was saying and came up with these questions. Again, I don't have any final answers, but I only have observations about or responses to what you're saying. About the first one, about rapid change. We are in the digital world, computational, whatever. I'm not an expert in this field, but there's a new concept called liquid modernity. Whatever, you can read that, you look up. It's a social theory that with the coming of mobile phone and the sort of internet and etc., things are very fluid. We live in a very disordered, because you are sitting here calling on the mobile and you say I'm in Alapi. Nobody will, because the cyber cell can tell you, but your parents can never know whether you are. So therefore we live in a kind of completely de-individualized world. There is no individualism. So that idea of individualism is going in one sense. So one social theorist has called it as liquid modernity. Now, in a way that whether you ask me whether you like it or not, many things happen without our liking. Whether we like it or not, things will happen. Then you're talking about Nietzsche. How did Nietzsche die, in fact? So Nietzsche, who wrote such revolutionary things, probably in his lifetime, in his personal life, he must have died in quotes tragic life or tragic death. But we don't need to conclude saying that his revolutionary ideas are not to be taken seriously because he had a tragic death. You don't need to connect these two. We need to understand Nietzsche and what Nietzsche said. Whether he talked about Superman or he talked about will to power, etc., etc. So we don't need to. For example, if you look at Foucault, another writer is Foucault. Foucault wrote wonderful things which are even relevant today, but he died in an asylum. Many other people had personal tragedy. That doesn't mean that what they wrote is to be suspected, because sometimes it is this personal tragedy which makes them write these important, all-time truths. It is through their suffering. Even novelists, for example, their life is not the same. It's not a happy life. So it is the suffering. It is a tragedy that actually sometimes helps you imagine things that are not around at your time, but you can think for the future and so on. Then you could ask about the middle level. Middle position is everyone's choice. Whether you want to take a very, I would say, a very radical position about life, or you want to take a middle position or a conservative position, it's all our choice. Nobody is going to ask you why you are taking it. You can be a very conservative person, you believe in God, you go to church, you do things, you pray, sleep, etc. That's fine. And you can also have the middle way that you have a little bit of deviation, or you can have a very radical life. You can go for living together. You can be experimenting with your sexual preferences. You can do many things. So that is also possible, because what I am trying to, actually what you are saying and what I am saying is almost the same thing, that world is fast changing. Things are very complex. And in this complex world, we need to address that complexity. We need to respond to that complexity. Without closing your eyes and say that everything is fine. World is same as Browning says. Here, God is in His heavens. Everything is fine with the world. That is not the Victorian optimism. Everything is fine with the world because God is there sitting and controlling everything. Well, that worldview is still today. It's there. I'm not against that. See, that is what I'm saying. Individualization means that individual is free. But that should not be a point for discrimination. I'm a homosexual, or I'm a heterosexual, or I'm a transgender, or I am a politically radical person, and I want to work for Maoism, and so on. So none of these things should be a matter for isolating people. You see the point? Therefore, each one can. And then about Shakespeare. Well, Shakespeare is in fact of all times. There is one essay called Shakespeare of all times. Shakespeare is a modern, of course. Shakespeare lived. Shakespeare, there's no parallel for Shakespeare. And I quoted Shakespeare, one can smile and smile, be a villain, because Shakespeare is talking about the subterfuge in the individual, human being. He's talking about Claudius. Claudius, the character, is supposed to be a very, good character. He's taking care of Hamlet. He's pretending to be good, but inside he's a villain. And that Shakespeare already saw this. So Shakespeare is for all times. Therefore, there is modernity in Shakespeare. You know, so much is written about Shakespeare and modernity. I said, okay, because Shakespeare. Then a wonderful question about Romanticism, which I expected actually, because Romanticism is also talking about individualization. Because they also talk about anarchy. Because they also talk about a kind of anarchy, because they believed in the complete freedom. Because it started with French Revolution, liberty, equality, and fraternity, and so on. Then the question of difference is, Romanticism happened probably almost, I would say, a century ago. Some of the influences on modernism were not there in their lifetime. So they were only talking about, say, for example, democracy. They were actually rebelling against, feudal system. They were rebelling against the incoming of cities, urbanization, and technology, and so on. But we don't, like modernism, we don't have these complexities of life, right? Modernist version of life is that life, as I said, is not only individual but that inside the individual. But Romanticism does not see what is inside the individual, because Romanticism perhaps stops with the individual. But modernism goes deeper into, because in Romanticism we don't have stream of consciousness technique. Of course, we had Thackeray or somewhere we have this technique, but modernism explores the individual in a more complex and in a more I would say in a radical manner what is going on inside the mind. So in other words, what I would say that the romantic experimentation and modern experimentation are so much different, though there are some similarities. Okay, so romantic individualization is perhaps not influenced by Freudian dream. It's not inspired by quantum physics or those things that I said, because they were actually looking for a better acceptance of the individual. Okay, vis-a-vis the society, but still they were not radical. For example, even Wordsworth and others, they wanted an ideal society, anisocracy. They went and they started a village, and so on. So they were actually against certain bad governance. So they were actually pointing to certain democratic and egalitarian kind of thing. It's not egalitarianism. Modernism is not egalitarianism, and therefore one of the problems with modernism is that it is elitism. Romanticism is like with the poor. Wordsworth and others, they stood with the poor, right? Therefore, Gayatri Spivak has a wonderful take on that subalterns. So Romanticism is actually for the subalterns. But modernism is not talking about the individual and its acceptance in society, but what is inside the individual. So in other words, it's not about poverty. It's not about poverty. It's not about good governance, but it's about what is happening inside the mind. I told you that there is a whirlpool in every human mind. You may be poor. You may be rich. You understand? You may be having everything. So the rich and poor, in fact, go through the same complexities of mind. But in Romanticism, they make a distinction between rich and poor. Okay? They always stand with the poor. Wordsworth concur with the common man. The common man was there. So modernism is not only about common man. Sex and death affect not only rich people but even poor people. And therefore this sort of impoverishment is not the major concern of modernism. Though modernism is hated by Marxists. Marxists don't like modernism because they say that why do you worry about what is happening in the mind? You worry about people who are not rich and worry about bread and give them something, etc. But Eliot is worried about people, their thoughts. And even an ordinary poor person will have these complexities of mind. What is the meaning of life? Okay, what did I believe so far? Where am I going? What is the end of my life? All these questions are there for the poor and the rich at the same time. So Romanticism, as I said, is about individual, but that individualism is different from modern intelligence. Because modern intelligence will be. So what was the other question? Did I miss any other question? I like the question. Any other question I missed? Any question? All questions answered. We are all happy. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As a token of our love and gratitude, Christian College would like to present a memento to our guest of honor, Mr. P.T. Thomas. I invite our respected HOD, Mr. Sito Joseph Chenil, to do the honors. Thank you, sir, for doing the honors. No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. I invite Heba George to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to one and all. Distinguished Chief Guest, Mr. P.T. Thomas, sir, Principal of Christy College of Management and Technology, Father Joshi Chirampuri CMI, Head of English Department, Mr. Sidhu Joseph Chenil, staff coordinators, student coordinators, faculty members, and all the dear participants. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. We are all happy that the inauguration of the Literary Association of English Department has been organized and conducted extremely well. Let me start by giving glory to the Almighty God for making today's occasion a resounding success. As William Arthur rightly said, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. Today, I take this opportunity to express my deep sense of gratitude and appreciate all those who made this session a great success. To begin, on behalf of the Department of English of Christy College of Management and Technology and all the students, I would like to thank our special guest, Mr. P.T. Thomas, who is the Associate Professor and the Head of the English Department of St. Bergman College. He, who despite of his busy schedule, has spared his time to grace this occasion. We are truly grateful to have you here, sir, and thank you for your enlightening session. Next, I would like to give my sincere thanks to our dear Principal, Mr. Joshi Chirampuri CMI, who has helped us in guiding and giving us generous support for this inauguration session. Thank you, Father, for your unstinted support. Next, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the Head of the English Department, Mr. Sidhu Joseph Chenil, who has always given us his valuable contribution, guidance, and encouragement in all our endeavors. He is also one of our main inspiration behind this wonderful session. Thank you, sir. I also thank our diligent core team members, Ms. Vinita Rosebenny, who is the staff coordinator, and Steve Sunichin, Tissa Wilson, and Jojo Philip, who are the student coordinators. They have truly worked hard to ensure that the occasion becomes a memorable success. Thank you for your earnest efforts. I also owe a special gratitude to all the other faculty members who has given us their relentless effort, support, and cooperation in organizing this seminar session. I would also like to thank our non-teaching staff for their help